So thank you for coming to my talk, why there is no casino night at RVAsec this year. Sorry. I'm going to start with just a little bit of information about me. So I have worked on cybersecurity intelligence products, implementing them, working on risk models and stuff like that. None of that is really going to matter today. The more important thing is that I study what's called dynamical systems, agent-system interactions, and game theory. I'm a graduate student, and so when I approach a problem, I think in a certain kind of way. And I'm going to take you on a tour of where that's led me in the couple years past here at RVAsec. So before I do that, I want to know a little bit more about you guys. Who here is at RVAsec for the first time? Is there anyone in the room? We got, okay, good amount. Is anyone here going to the after party today, Trivia Showdown? Or we have some proud trivia contestants in the back, that's good. And I'm curious, did anyone in here go to the after party last year or the year before? All right, good. That's like maybe half the room or something like that. Good. I assume you noticed by now there is no casino night this year, right? It's interesting. If they just did one casino night, that's not a pattern. They do two, and then they suddenly don't do a third. Huh. All right. Well, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour of after parties throughout the years at RVAsec. So initially, for the first few years at least, most of the after parties were like eating, drinking, socializing. You go to a bar or something like that. And eventually they innovated by having a live band where you could eat, drink, socialize, and like talk over some loud music. Then there was kind of a sharp left turn. They had a magician, and you could not eat, drink, socialize while the magician was doing his thing. That was really not happening. And then for the next few years, there was casino night. That was 2023 and 2024, and then finally this year we have trivia. So how did I happen upon casino night? So I was idly scrolling through, and I saw on the RVAsec website, RVAsec 12 had casino night, and specifically I read that they are shaking things up at the end of the first day of RVAsec with their exhilarating casino night. And the best part, they said, there will be food, beverages, music, fabulous prizes for the top players. I'm a top player, so I thought, well, if I can use fake money to win real prizes, that's a win-win for me, assuming I have nothing better to do, which I did not. And so I got really excited for casino night. So as far as approaching a game and how to play a game, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I think about. And before I do that, I want to point out this clip art is interesting. How does he read the note he's writing? So he's got to write it backwards? Or upside down, and then he lifts it? Anyway, so the first thing that I'd recommend is that you understand the rules of the game that you're going to play, right? And you also have to kind of be goal-oriented. So you have to wonder, what am I trying to accomplish in this game? Like, do I need to score the most points, or do I need to be the first one to hit a finish line? Something like that. And you have to think about how you can and can't reasonably accomplish that goal, right? You have to follow the rules, or you at least have to pretend that you're following the rules, right? Another thing that you might do is leverage relationships. So often when you're playing a game, it's not solitary, unless you're playing solitaire. You're playing with people, and that can give you an edge on certain things. So we'll get into this more later, but you might wonder, what do people know that I don't? Have they played this game before, but I haven't? Something like that. You might also wonder, what do I know, or what can I know that other people do not? Maybe I designed this game, and so I know all the tips and the tricks and the secrets about it. You also, just generally speaking, need to know your place in the system. Who am I at this table? Who am I playing this game? And lastly, you should try to anticipate any kind of faults or loopholes that you might see in the rules. So if someone says, this is how we're going to play this game, I don't know about you, but I have a devious mind, and I start thinking of ways I want to try and break it. So you might wonder, what are people going to mess up? What are they going to notice or not notice that I will notice? What are the pitfalls? And what haven't they accounted for? So I'm sure if you guys have tried to write instructions for someone, or onboarding documentation or something like that, you try to make it idiot-proof, but as I like to say, idiot-proofing is only as good as the strength of your idiot. So before I really get into it, I want to have a little aside about loopholes. So I always assume that a loophole referred to something like this. right? Like a cloth button thing. Did anyone else think that? Okay, maybe it was just me. It actually refers to these like arrow slits you'd see on the side of a fort. You could like shoot arrows or guns or something out of it if people were stuck in your fort or something. I think that's Fort Knox, actually. So maybe you guys have heard this story before, but it's kind of the classic case that I think of when I think of loopholes in gaming the system a little bit. Do you know the healthy choice thing? Kind of. Some people are nodding. All right. The trivia people are nodding because they're good at trivia and they know obscure things like this. Exactly. Okay, so Healthy Choice put out a promotion which was that if you bought one of their products, you could cut out the UPC, and if you mailed in 10 UPCs, they would give you 50 air miles. Okay? So there was a guy in like the late 90s who found out that you could buy 25-cent pudding cups, cut out the UPCs, and send them in. So for $2.50, he could get 50 air miles. So just to do the math on that a little bit, he'd pay a quarter for a pudding. A pudding would be 50 air miles. He then had the genius idea of donating the actual pudding itself. And so he recruited the Salvation Army to open it all and then redeem that as a tax write-off. So he actually was able to get a bit of a chargeback for some of that money. And so basically, he paid about 3-4 cents per mile. So for reference, a flight from Richmond to LAX would be about $83 in pudding. And that's $1999. It's probably like $25,000 in modern day. I'm not good at inflation. So going back here and talking about casino night specifically and the gears in my mind turning as to what I can do to kind of abuse some of these things. Well, when it came to what we wanted to accomplish, the posting was pretty vague, but I at least knew that there was going to be like a raffle, and you'd want to win a lot of money, right? Pretty straightforward. I'm going to win a lot of money. And as far as how that can't be accomplished, well, there's games of chance. It's a casino, so you're going to kind of play these games, right? Well, that's all pretty straightforward, but that doesn't give me enough of an edge. I need more to really sink my teeth into and abuse here. So what do? Well, something I noticed, and I don't know if this like occurs to you guys instantaneously or not, and if you're going to trivia night, feel free to abuse this. I don't think the last 2 years at casino night, anyone ever explained what the rules would be. They just said, hey, enjoy the after party. It'll be through that door. Here are your drink tickets, right? And I think I may have been the only person to wonder, what the hell are we doing here? And so when I walked in, I just asked Jake, right? Because I know Jake, and I said, what are we playing for? How do I play for it? Like, am I on a team? Are there tables? I interrogated him. And anyone could have done this. And so that was something that I locked into, that I knew that I could know that others could know but wouldn't, right? And on the flip side, there are things that other people know that I don't, right? So they know like their strategy, their winnings, who their friends are, stuff like that. So I had that information armed to me. They had some, I would say, lesser information armed to them. So as far as what people were going to mess up, I interrogated Jake about the raffle, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the raffle later. But he told me that basically for every $10,000 you won in fake money, you would get a raffle ticket, right? And I knew that that was rife for abuse. And so I kept that to myself, but I paid attention to it. Another thing that I knew people would mess up is, even at a cybersecurity conference, they do mess up, is risk assessment. Like when to go risky, when to go less risky, stuff like that. And as far as what they haven't accounted for, me. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about a raffle, right? So when you went to casino night, you got 50,000 fake dollars, and you would go and cash it out at one of the tables. And what that meant was, if every 10,000 was one raffle ticket, that money automatically translated to 5 tickets. You could have walked in, cashed your money out, paid into the raffle, and just sat and waited to potentially receive a prize. Now, I do have a degree in math, and I think this checks out. If you waste all your money on the roulette wheel, you actually have no chance of winning any of the prizes in the raffle. Another thing I realized about the raffle is that you can win more. And what I mean by that is this. If you, let's say I win $100,000 and you win $90,000, I get first prize, you get second prize. But we have equal chances in the raffle because 100,000 is about the same as 90,000. But if I win $100 million and you win 90,000, I get first prize, you get second prize, but I'm going to blow you out of the water on the raffle, right? Now, it isn't often that a game lets you win more like this. In fact, when a game lets you win more, it usually means that you can cut that fat to kind of increase your chances of actually winning at all rather than win more. So I did a little estimation in my head. If this was like everybody who entered into the raffle, this would have been you if you had just turned in the free money they gave you and sat and waited. And I think this was me. Not spoiling anything, but keep that in mind for when we talk about that later. OK, so as far as casino night itself, I walk in and I see a number of games, right? And I wonder, what am I going to play? There were poker tables. I definitely wasn't going to play poker because it's interdependent on other people. They're going to think, they're going to put their hood on and their sunglasses and do all these things and try to psych me out. I don't have time for that, right? We need to go in and we need to make a lot of money. Craps, I don't know how to play craps, so we're definitely not doing that. Some of these other games, like the horses or the roulette wheel, are purely games of luck. You would roll a die, and if it was a 5, then the horse with the 5 on it would move forward. There's no agency at all. So those are games that you don't play. They just sort of play themselves. I don't even have to be there, right? Speaking of games that play themselves, you ever play Candyland? Right? OK. So Candyland is kind of stupid. You draw a card, which is just a shuffled deck. And I promise you there's a rectangle here that's like a light gray to indicate the shape of the card, and it just doesn't appear there. But you would pull this card out, and if it's one orange, you would move your piece bing, 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 to the orange, right? And eventually, these colors would lead you like through the Lollipop Woods, and you'd meet Grandma Nut at the Peanut Acres, and eventually you would arrive in Candyland. Now, the game does not actually require you to do anything, right? You could just walk away from it, and the pieces would all go according to how that deck was initially shuffled. There's zero gameplay here. Do not play Candyland. So as far as how to play, you would just draw a card and move to that tile, and that's it. And as far as how to win, statistically, you know what you do? Does anyone know? You go first, right? If you're the first one to start going down the path, statistically, you will win the game, OK? Now, does anyone know how to go first in Candyland? Anyone read the rules of Candyland? Barry knows. The youngest player always go first in Candyland. So yet another benefit of being young. So looking at the games, I'm definitely not playing the horses. I'm definitely not playing roulette. But I will play blackjack. So blackjack is really cool because even though there's an optimal way to play, right, based on the cards you're seeing and the cards the dealer's showing, there are suboptimal ways to play, like if you just do stupid stuff. And what that means is you are able to skill diff your opponent, as we can call it, right? So if you know what to do and you are playing optimally and other people are not, you will just do better than them. And sure, if they know how to play, then it's a different question we'll talk about. But mostly everyone was like drinking and stuff, and I don't think they knew how to play blackjack. Now, in blackjack, you don't actually play against other people at your table, but in the grand scheme of things, I am playing against some theoretical person who's trying to beat me, right? So speaking of, reading the room is really important. So I walk into the room and I kind of take a survey, and I find a table at the center of the room that kind of attracts my eye. And seated at that table is a man that you can picture as maybe Ernest Borgnine, okay? He is my dealer. I sit down and I notice a few things about my dealer. The first thing I notice is that he's really great, and he enjoys his gig as a contracted blackjack dealer. Second thing I notice is he's rather quiet and understated, which sometimes I am as well. He also treats people appropriate to their attitude, and what I mean by that is I'm playing, I'm enjoying myself. If I win, I go, yay, and if I lose, I go, ah. And he would treat me nicely. And there were some people that would sit down, and they would lose, and they'd go, oh, and then he would not treat them so nicely. And I noticed this feedback loop, and I realized I could take advantage of it. And maybe most importantly, he would occasionally peek at cards before dealing them to me. So I stayed. And for 3 hours, I played blackjack with Ernest Borgnine. Now, in a race, right, you usually need to know how fast your opponent is going. That makes sense. If you don't know how fast they're going, you don't know how fast you should be going. And so you also need to change your speed, handle corners, and use items appropriately. I've only ever played Mario Kart. I've never raced, so I assume that's accurate. And what do I mean by using items? Well, there's an open bar at casino night, and I would go get myself a drink, and I'd go get my dealer a drink. And he would tip me. Yeah, pretty good. I would also, because I was sitting in the middle of the room, when a hand would go long or someone was sitting down to cash out, I'd stand up and I'd walk around and I'd look at how many chips other people had, right? I'd schmooze with the dealer. I'd ask about his life. And I would occasionally just take a look at other people's piles to make sure I was playing at an appropriate speed. Now, that can be a little misleading. So there could be instances where, if you imagine my winnings as this orange line, someone could be up here because they're just like on a hot streak, but really they're going to lose it all. And if I were to react to this, I might also lose it all. If I just stay my course, I do well, right? This is just a hypothetical situation right here. And at the end of the night, kind of cutting to the chase, I looked at Ernest and I said I needed him now more than ever. And wouldn't you know it, I won that last hand. I put all my money on it. And I doubled all of that, and I won a lot of fake money. So I won about $1.33 million from 50,000. Now, amazingly, that was only second place overall. I have a suspicion that the person who won actually pooled a bunch of money together from many people. And I think that was probably proof of an age-old tale, which is that being a nerd is not as good as just having friends. And I ended up only getting the second place. So I won a Lego set. Here's a picture of me with my Lego set. Here's a text message exchange with me and my parents where they make fun of me for how I'm dressed. And when I went up to claim it, everyone was very happy for me. Okay. Then the raffle started. And my name was called, and I walked up through the crowd again, and everyone was very happy for me. I won a gift card. And then a few minutes later, my name was called again. And I think there technically was applause. The fourth time I went up to claim a prize, people were booing me. I think someone threw their beer at me. So going into the next year after that, I was excited to see that casino night was back, an excitement none of you get to feel. And I decided I was going to do it all over again, but this time better. I was going to play my hands faster, right? That's important. I was going to schmooze the dealer harder. You know, oh, do you have any kids? What do you do for a living? Oh, where's your wife from? All that stuff. I was going to risk a little more often, because I thought I was pretty risk-averse the first time. I now had a target for a winning amount because I won about $1.33 million. I think the winner won like $2 million. So I was like, if I get $4 or $5 million, I should win, right? I also thought I might need to change some of my individual strategies, and we're going to talk a lot about changing strategies. But one example of what I mean by that is if instead of like betting it all on the last hand, I bet it all like midway through and on the last hand, I might have like 2 spikes of winnings here. And if you keep risking it, then you'll lose it all too early. But I thought that I could probably go out on more than one limb there. Now, what do I mean by changing strategy? So it's actually incredibly important to be able to change strategy when you're playing a game. Should be obvious to say. And that couldn't be more true in the game of Guess Who. Do we all know what Guess Who is? Okay, I'm going to explain the rules of Guess Who anyway, just because I've met people who don't know what Guess Who is. So you have a board, and on the board are options, which are these faces. Each of these faces have features, earrings, hat, hair color, things like that. And you and your opponent both select a secret identity. You ask them yes or no questions. If you ask them, does your person have yellow or red hair? If their person's Philip, they would say no. So you would cross off all the yellow and red-haired people. And then they would take a turn. You would ask another question, another, and so on until you isolated it down to, oh, it's Philip, right? This is how we play Guess Who. Now, There's a strategy to playing Guess Who that is actually the best strategy. I'm gonna tell you this now. It's more complex than just Candyland, I promise you. So if you ask, for example, is your person a woman? And they say no. That question will either reduce the options to 19 more or 5 more. There's 24 people total. And I'm glossing over one detail. If you notice it, maybe we'll talk about it later. But you can think of this 19 or 5 as being kind of the risk ratio of this question. And in this case, they said no, not a woman, so we go down to just 19 options. And that it didn't pay off for us, we'll put it that way, right? Now, if I ask the ultimate risky question, hey, is your person Philip? That will either reduce them to 23 or 1, right? You may not know this if you've never actually read the rules of Guess Who, which I've done extensively. If you do this and the answer is no, you lose the game. So this will either win you the game or lose you the game. It's the ultimate gambit, right? So that's great. The best question, though, is, for example, does your person's name start with the letters A through G? Because this will either eliminate one half of the board or the other, right? It's perfectly balanced. And you can abuse this fact to whittle down to 1, right? So if you ask that, you go down to 12 options. You ask another question, it'll reduce it to 6, then to 3, and then you have to ask a question that either goes to 1 or 2. If you ask and it happens to go to 2, then you have to ask another question. But basically, a game of Guess Who should not go past 6 questions for you, okay? However, if you and your opponent are both doing this, we have the Candyland problem again. Because if they go first, they will reduce before you do. They will race you to the bottom first. So if you plan to guess here, in this situation where your opponent goes first, you will lose 100% of the time because they will race you to the bottom. But if you plan to guess here, you'll only lose 2/3 of the time, right? So sometimes it actually makes sense to play into a riskier scenario. So there's kind of an age-old proverb here. If you're losing, you might need to increase your risk tolerance. So if you're wondering, how far ahead should my opponent be before I should start playing riskier? The answer is written in a paper that you can find from, I think, 2016, and has something to do with this. OK? Cool. All right, as far as casino night, year 2, here are the things that I did, and I was going to try to change or maybe not change. Playing blackjack was awesome. If there were new games, maybe I'd consider them, but there weren't. Sat with a cool dealer. I'm doing that again. He showed up the second year. Nice. I sat in the middle of the room. Now, I didn't do that on the second year. I liked having the vantage point, but it was distracting. Too many people getting up, sitting down, getting up. I wanted to tuck myself away. I schmoozed, and I schmoozed harder second year. That was great. I had a target number the second year, but not the first. That's great. Took only one big risk first year. Was going to change that second year. I was also, couldn't find better words for this, the only context haver. What I mean by that is when I walked into the room that first year, I was the only one who really knew what I was walking into as far as what I needed to do. But of course, all the people coming to the second casino night who had already been to the first had context for what they needed to do, right? So I lost that edge, which is unfortunate. So I had a healthy pile of chips. But unfortunately, maybe an hour before the situation closed, someone sat down next to me and told me that another table already had like millions of dollars. And I was pretty shocked. I thought that there was like no way that that was true. The guy was a little drunk. I counted all the chips at our table, like in the dealer's tray, and they had more money than that. A little weird. So our table kind of turned into like a police body cam. I started like interrogating this guy, this drunk guy. I was asking, where's the table? Who are they? I'd made him stand on one leg. He counted down from 72 to 55. But he just kept doubling down. He doubled down like he had a hard 11, if you know what I mean. So I got up, and I looked at the table myself, and they didn't have many chips at all. Like, it wasn't a very high pile. I didn't understand. So I sat back down, and I asked my new drunk friend. And he told me they were writing their winnings on a piece of paper. And I don't think I have to tell a room full of security professionals why there's no integrity in numbers scribbled on a piece of paper. So I won probably 50 million, because I started to go a little crazy at that point. And I still lost. I don't know if I got second or third place. Jake wouldn't tell me. He only awarded first place. I won no prizes at the raffle. I went home with nothing. So one of the problems with the raffle the second year, which I didn't realize until the end, was that they capped it. So I only had, 10 tickets or something, like 20 tickets, and so did a lot of other people. So there was no winning more. There was no, consolation prize of at least you won a ton of money and you might get something in the raffle. So that was a little unfortunate. Now, I'm a little melodramatic, so I remembered a book on death and dying. It talks about the 5 stages of grief, and I realized that I was in denial about that table's success, and I was angry about their methods. I definitely did bargain to try to beat them, and it didn't work. And eventually I was very depressed when I won no prizes. And yet I refused to accept that they could have done that. And so I tried to estimate how implausible it was that they won more than I did. And I came up with this. So we played for about 3 hours. That's the schedules you can find on the RVAsec website. And I figured hands took about 2 minutes, because I was really churning through them. We played about 90 hands, let's say. And this is what I imagine a person would have won if they won more than half the hands that they played, and they put down half of their chips every hand, right? And they would end up with only like $150,000. So something felt a little off. Now, how did I get 50 million? Well, I went crazy. My win rate was way up because I schmoozed real hard. And I was a little more risk averse than that, maybe 40% down. And this is more what I looked like. And those spikes, not that I was jotting down my winnings or anything, but those spikes are where I sort of went crazy, right? At the end there. So upon reflection, I thought of a few things. And I wanted to share a couple maybe key takeaways about what I kind of learned meditating on this situation. So first thing, knowing the rules is the key to breaking the rules, right? I'm kind of a contrarian, so I like breaking the rules. But the most effective way to do that is by first understanding them. You want to try to choose your environment, right? I found a dealer I liked. I sat with him. I did that. If you can't choose your environment, you should at least monitor it, right? Keep an eye on it. That's pretty important. If you're falling behind, you should shift strategies, which I did. It didn't end up paying off, but I did do that. And I don't know that there's value to this, but go out swinging. That's what I always say. And care way, way, way too much, which actually kind of sucks sometimes, but it's kind of my secret. All right. So there are a couple applications to this kind of thing, right? Obviously, playing games is where you might utilize some of this information. Job applications, right? You're not directly competing against other people, but you are networking and trying to understand things, position yourself in an industry, write your resume in a way that catches people's eye. Shoplifting, I imagine. This is probably pretty important. And finally, cybersecurity. And I think I'm obligated to say that word, but I'm actually not going to talk about it at all. Okay. So I was kind of frustrated that my brand of cheating didn't work and other brands of cheating did. So naturally, I demanded to speak to the manager. This is a picture of Jake and I after almost winning a bowling tournament, similar to me almost winning the first casino night. And so I put on, my kind of Karen outfit, and I caught up with him later, and we talked about it. And it turned out that he had some trouble with the prizing structure or something, like he gave out too many prizes to the capture the flag people or something like that. And I didn't understand any of what he was saying, but I asked him, well, what policies are you going to have in place to make sure that, this kind of thing doesn't happen again? And he said, I don't think it will happen again. Don't worry about that. And so I hope you all will enjoy Hacker Trivia in approximately 30 minutes. Now, That's all I had for you. Happy to take questions. I also have a couple rants I can ramble on more about Guess Who or otherwise. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Did you ever figure out how you got beat?
No. I'm kind of hoping that they're in the room right now and they'll tell me. No? Yeah. Oh, thank you. He asked me, have I figured out how I got beat? No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have an answer for that. So
Go ahead.
I was at that table
Yeah,
when
please.
we started, and I did what you did. I was schmoozing with the person who was, dealing cards, and I just started going all in every hand.
Uh-huh.
And every time she would pull a card that I would fold on,
Yeah.
she'd go, nah, and throw it aside.
Yeah.
And after I went all in, I think hit about 100 million, everybody at the table started doing it. And
Yeah.
it forever.
So you caught on, but someone was able to leapfrog you, because I don't think you won the drone.
I didn't win any. I got out to take a walk after I made 100 million, and it was downhill from there. People had hundreds
Yeah.
of millions.
So yes, yeah, right. So I forgot if I repeated the question, but he basically just told us how he did it. He essentially also realized that he could schmooze his dealer. Other people caught on, and ended up accelerating past you, right? Unfortunately. Now, I have thought about this more than I should have in the last year, and something occurred to me. Okay, and it took me probably way too long for this to occur to me. If the casino night was owned by like a contractor, right, who has he owns the tables, the chips, the cards. He hires these people to be the dealers. He probably trains them and stuff, right? He's running a business, and if his business accurately ran a casino, half of us would have guns in our mouths by the end of the night, right? So it's almost certainly true that he told the dealers, right? Or he let it be true that the dealers would be kind to people so they would have fun, right? And I don't like that. So, any other questions?
Are you saying that the dealers cheated so you could have fun? Is that what you're saying?
I think that might be what I'm saying, Barry.
Wait, what are you saying? The camera?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Barry's implying that the dealers cheated so that I could have fun. And what ended up happening is I didn't have fun because I didn't win. And that was sad. Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, when you schmooze the dealer, is the dealer looking at the card, seeing it's not a winning card, putting it back, giving you a different card?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's bullshit.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
That is complete bullshit.
I agree. And I was. Other question? I'll talk more about Guess Who if no one has a question. Okay. Some funny things about Guess Who. So one thing you'll note about Guess Who is that you and your opponent can't have the same person, right? Because you're drawing from a pile of all the 24 identities. So a nuance to that is you're not actually reducing down from 24 options, you're reducing down from 23 because you know that he doesn't have your guy, right? So there is some really complex thinking you can do around what questions you should ask to maximize eliminating qualities that your guy does not have. I'm not going to talk about that. That's way too complex. I'll talk about a way to win at Guess Who if your friends are naive, okay? If you set up the boards so that the faces are in the same order on each board, okay? They'll pick up their person. They'll go, oh, I'm Philip, and they'll knock down Philip. And then you look at your board and which thing they knocked down, and now you know who they are, okay? And if you pay really close attention, if you say, does your person have white hair? They say that, and you say no, and they knock out all the appropriate things and one more, you also know who they are. Now, in the spirit of, if two people are using the same strategy, you should shift. When you're playing Guess Who, when you pick your person, knock down a random guy. See what your opponent does, because they might guess them and they will instantaneously lose because of the rules of Guess Who. And if they get mad at that, pull out the little paper thing and point and say, you're not allowed to. Yeah, Guess Who is quite fun. Thank you. Anything else? I'll keep rambling, please.
Have you seen the rule set where you're only allowed to ask vibes questions?
Yes. Okay. This is great. I love this. Yeah. So he says, have you seen the rule set where you're only allowed to ask vibes questions? I have done that, and I've played that. So basically, the premise is this: you set up, but then you go, does your person read the paper? Was your person bullied in high school? things like that. And it turns Guess Who more into a cooperative game because you're trying to, psychoanalyze these little pictures and what your friends might be thinking. And yeah, I've never had an instance where we were able to guess each other's by narrowing down correctly, but I have been able to guess my opponents before based on that. Yeah, great question. I love doing that. Anything else? Yeah, go for it.
What's your cheating strategy for tonight?
Okay, great question. I don't think I'm going to be at Hacker Trivia because I know nothing about Hacker Trivia, right? So I got bad news. But let's have kind of a live, working session here, right? So I heard that you can form teams, but he said that there's like 3 teams of 3, so only 9 people get to participate in the Jeopardy section. What are the other 81 or however many people going to do?
Drinking.
Sure, but that's not winning. So I don't understand that, right? But he did say, and if we have too many teams, then we'll figure out what to do. That's a weakness. Exploit it, right? Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know what these things will look like. Can you pull things up on your phone? That's explicitly cheating, but you could try that, right? The question was, what's the plan for tonight? Tonight is trivia night, right? If it was movie trivia, pop culture trivia, I know it said pop culture in there, but I don't believe it. Then I would probably be there, right? Go ahead.
If there's 3 teams playing, I'm sure that they'll be monitored to make sure that they're not Googling, they'll get on the stage. So what you need is some way of signal from someone in the back room to answer the question.
That'd probably be really hard. Probably.
Not if it's multiple choice.
Well, if it's multiple, it wouldn't be multiple choice. That's crazy. Jeopardy is not multiple choice. It better not be. No, I don't know. You might be out of luck. Any other questions? Anyone else? Anything? No? Okay.
Maybe it's like Millionaire. It's like you answer questions and you have to be.
Well, they would have called it Hacker Millionaire.
Well, but I think maybe you form 2 teams of 3.
Yeah.
You do an initial round,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the top 3 teams.
Yeah.
Then go and compete on stage.
Yeah.
So then the objective is be the top. You're still winning.
Yeah. I don't know. I participated in a trivia competition when I was in college, and it was a situation where each of the kind of undergraduate colleges, which held maybe each different type of major participated against each other, right? So you had all the government kids together competing and all of the music and fine arts kids competing and so on. And I was the only nerd who showed up for my undergraduate college. And what they had done is they had a line. So you'd stand in a line and the first person in the line would be asked a question. And they would attempt an answer, and if they would get it right or wrong, they'd go to the back of the line and the next person would come up. And what was trouble is a team would often have one person who was good at trivia, but they'd only get that shot every 4. But because I was the only person in my undergraduate college, I was always at the front of the line, and I just got to destroy. So did they allow you to make teams of just one person? Yes?
Well, no, they'll put you on. Never mind.
Oh, right. They'll let you sign up, but they're going to lump you in with other people. That's unfortunate. Does anyone know the host? No? Just trying to think of any way. No, I don't know. I'm sorry. You don't want me on your team. I'm telling you that now. All right. Questions. Give me more questions. Anyone? Trying to think if there's anything else I could rant about. What's up?
What's your favorite game?
What's my favorite game? Like traditional game.
Or not?
Well, that's impossible to answer.
How about a top 3?
Top 3. All right, I got 10 minutes left. I'll take the full time. No, okay, so you want to know, I'll be explicit. You want me to, here, I'll go crazy. You thought I was a nerd already. Are you ready? So you asked what my favorite games are? I play the Pokemon trading card game. Anyone else play Pokemon? All right. That's my man over there, right? So this is actually really interesting because depending on what kind of deck you play, you have better or worse matchups. And there's also a clearing of the field. So there might be a deck that's very popular and very good into many matchups, and you might have a rogue deck that beats that one. So there's a game theory here where if you play maybe the second best deck, the rogue deck will clear out the mass of the best deck, and you will skate through the opening that was made. I hope any of that makes sense. So this is all pretty interesting. Now, I'll also tell you I'm a judge for the Pokemon trading card game. So as far as cheating, I've never cheated in a game ever. You didn't see me give this talk. I wasn't here. It's not being recorded and put on the internet. You don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. Okay, we all understand that, right? Okay, good. Yeah, that's my favorite game. Question?
You keep using the word nerd.
Yeah.
What does that mean when you use it?
It means that I care a lot about minor details that that people would not prioritize if they were more normal. Yeah. Yeah.
Define normal.
If you statistically sample everybody, the person who's most in the middle. I have a degree in statistics. Yeah. Thank you. That might be it. We good? All right.